Hi, my name is Danny Brown. I'm the CEO of Myriad Real Estate Group, and this is going to be our April market update. So with each passing week, our listing inventory in the greater Phoenix area seems to be getting lower and lower. So for every week that goes by, there's about 100 less listings that are on the market. So we keep kind of hovering around this 10,000 mark in terms of active inventory. Now, if you've watched my videos for a while, you know for us to be in a more balanced market, we should have somewhere around 35,000 homes on the market. Now, if we had 35,000 homes on the market, home values would be dropping pretty quickly because the demand isn't quite there. Demand is now going up though, and that is causing pricing to bottom out and actually go up in certain areas. So demand has been low for a while, and it's all due to affordability, right? So we came out of the COVID times and home values exploded, rates were being kept artificially low, and as soon as the federal government stopped buying mortgage-backed securities, mortgage rates skyrocketed. What didn't come down were home values. So that really pressed on buyers and their affordability. So high mortgage rates and high prices pushed a lot of buyers out of the market. Now, if you've been living under a rock, you may not be aware that we are in the midst of what some people say is a banking crisis. I don't think it's a crisis. I think it's isolated to some very minor banks. More of your mid-tier banks and regional banks have had some issues. But what that's done has caused people to flee equities and into bonds, and that's caused bonds to come down, which has therefore resulted in mortgage rates dropping. So right now, the mortgage rates tend to be hovering around 6%, and that is bringing a lot more buyers back to the market. We saw this story happen in early February. Now we're at the end of March, and it's happening again. So in early February, we saw an uptick in buyer activity and demand. Well, we're seeing that same thing happen now because those mortgage rates have fallen. With demand increasing and inventory remaining low, that is starting to push home values up again in certain areas. And I've been arguing that we've got a tale of two different markets. So we have homes that are priced right, look good, are in a nice location. When those homes are new to market, they're attracting a lot of attention. So they're getting multiple offers, the price is being bid up, and it's almost like a mini version of what happened a couple of years ago. Prime example of this is we just had a client that listed their home for sale, listed where I told them to list, did the things that I told them to do to get their home ready. We took amazing photos, and they had tons of showings, multiple offers, and sold for $55,000 above where they had listed, waived appraisal, waived inspections, and the sellers really got everything that they wanted. And again, it reminded me of just a couple of years ago when we were in that real big housing boom during COVID. Homes that now are needing work, that are priced high and aren't really checking all the boxes for buyers, those ones are sitting. And those are where buyers can sometimes get a deal. So you can be a little bit more aggressive in your offers on those homes and still get sellers to cover your closing costs, still come down in price, and you just have a little bit more wiggle room with those. So that's why there's a tale of two different markets. So let's talk about mortgage rates. Our industry really hinges on where mortgage rates are at. So they're still pretty volatile and they're kind of bouncing around because people flee from equities and a little bit more risky investments into bonds, which are safer, and then they go back and forth. So there's a lot of pivoting between these two investments that are causing mortgage rates to bounce around. I think that mortgage rates are going to continue to fall. It's going to be a bumpy ride as they go down. So we are going to see periods of time where they go back up, but then they fall. And I think by the end of the year, you will see this bouncy line, but a steady trajectory lower. So that's going to be increasing buyers' purchasing power, bringing a lot more buyers back to the market. So if you are a buyer, I would say coming into the market now, if you're ready and can afford the monthly payment, you're going to be able to beat out a lot of buyer activity that comes to the market when rates get down into the mid fives and low fives. So if we're already seeing an increase in demand with rates in the low sixes, think about what it's going to look like when we get into the low to mid fives. I think you're going to see an even higher increase in that buyer demand, creating more competition for those really good homes. So in March, the Fed did increase rates by 25 basis points. Now, just a reminder, and I've talked with agents about this, that when the Fed increases the federal funds rate, it has nothing to do with increasing mortgage rates. There is an indirect correlation, and when the Fed does things with the federal funds rate, it can definitely impact mortgage rates, but there's no guarantee mortgage rates will go up, right? So the Fed just increased by 25 basis points in March, and mortgage rates actually came down. So when we talk about the Fed increasing rates, don't think mortgages, think about the federal funds rate. And so that was pretty much baked into the entire market. And so I think Jerome Powell was really locked into having to do a 25 basis point hike. And I have been arguing for a long time that I think Jerome Powell is a dove at heart, and was looking for excuses on why he could stop doing rate hikes. And nothing was breaking in the economy. Job market was super solid. Everything was still chugging along. Inflation was still high. So he had no choice but to continue increasing those rates. Well, he broke something with these aggressive rate hikes, and that was part of the banking sector. And so now my belief is that he is found a reason to pause and will no longer be doing rate hikes going forward, allowing all the rate hikes that he's done over the last year to finally catch up. So my prediction is that the Fed is finally done hiking rates. That is absolutely going to bring some stability back to the equity in the bond markets, which will therefore bring some stability to the mortgage rates. So now that he's paused, I do believe that inflation is going to continue to ease and go down. I think that you're probably going to see an increase in unemployment finally start to happen as well. And we're also going to see liquidity in the marketplace dry up a little bit. So the banks are all pretty nervous about what took place, and so they're going to start tightening up in how much money they're lending out into the market. So that is also going to impact inflation and help do the Fed's job by bringing that rate of inflation down. So think about liquidity as being banks lending money out into the world. So that's your car loans, that's your mortgages, that's commercial lending. All of those things, it's going to be a lot harder to borrow from the banks. They're going to add certain overlays and be a little bit more timid in how much money that they're lending out, which again, as I said, is going to increase or decrease that rate of inflation because they're putting less money into the system. That was all very technical. How does that affect you if you are buying in this market? Well, again, I think that mortgage rates are going to continue on that downward trajectory that's going to be increasing buyers' buying power. Now, as more buyers come to the market, it's going to increase the competition for homes that are listed for sale. And if we continue to be in a low inventory environment, that's going to start to push home values up. Now, there's a theory out there that as rates come down, more people will be motivated to sell their home. It's really hard for a seller to be motivated to go from a 3 or 4% into a 7%. But them going from a 3 or 4% into maybe a 5% is a little bit more digestible. So only time will tell if that will actually happen. But as it stands, with inventory being super low, more buyers coming to the market, it's just supply and demand. So if your supply is remaining the same, but your demand is going up, that's just naturally going to push up those prices. So what can you expect as a seller? Well, it's still really important to price your home accurately. I don't think that buyers are coming and way overpaying for homes. I've gone on listing appointments and sellers are like, oh, let's find a California buyer. California is not the answer to everything. So not every buyer is just loaded with cash, right? And I have just seen it too many times in real time where a seller prices a home too high because they want to be able to negotiate down, and then the home just sits. We don't get any interest. They do price reduction after price reduction after price reduction. And it does increase activity, but when buyers start to see you do those price drops, then they start to be a little bit more aggressive. So think back to what I said at the beginning of this video, the tale of two markets. So the longer you're on the market, the more aggressive the buyers are that are out there the more aggressive they're going to be when they make those offers to you. So they're going to come in below your list price. They're going to ask for concessions. Whereas if you price it right the first time, it increases the likelihood that you're going to have multiple parties interested in your home, drive that price up and give you better terms. So it's still more important than ever to price your home accurately the first time. And then for sellers, we just have a couple more months of the spring selling season. Again, that really runs January through maybe June. So with this being April, you got a couple more months to hit that spring selling season. Same with buyers. We do see just activity in general drop off when we start hitting triple digits in Phoenix. Everybody leaves, goes on vacations, kids are out of school, and buying and selling homes just isn't the top of the priority list in the months of July and August. Then we see the second best time for real estate in Phoenix is in that fall time frame. So I expect that seasonality to be relatively predictable and kick in this year, unlike the COVID years. If you have any questions on the market, buying or selling a home in Phoenix, definitely reach out. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.